Hello, fellow boomers. Welcome, or welcome back, to our channel. Today we're diving into a story that hits close to home for a lot of us. What happens when the career you spent decades building gets quietly replaced by artificial intelligence? We're talking about skilled, educated professionals, people in their 50s and 60s, who found themselves unemployed, struggling, and ultimately doing something none of them ever expected: teaching the very AI that took their jobs how to do it better. It's a story about resilience, about the gig economy, and about a labor market that's changing faster than most of us can keep up with. Before we dive in, if this topic speaks to you, hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it helps the story reach more people who need to hear it. And if you're not subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. Just hit that button below so you never miss a story like this one. Throughout the video, whenever something resonates, a statistic, a moment, a thought that hits close to home, drop it in the comments below. We read every single one. Now here's why you want to stay until the very end. We're closing out with a question that we genuinely don't have the answer to, and we think you might. This is a conversation, not just a video. Let's get into it. Imagine spending 30 years building a career. You've got a master's degree. You've designed systems for banks, for universities, for pharmaceutical companies. You know your field inside and out. And then one day, the job disappears. Not to a competitor, not to downsizing in the traditional sense, but to a broader shift that you saw coming and couldn't stop. You send out applications, hundreds of them. Months go by, nothing. Your savings run out. Your family moves from a house to a motel, and then from a motel to your car. That is not a hypothetical. That is the real story of a 60-year-old information management specialist from the United States. And what makes his story so important right now is not just the hardship, it's what happened next. In March of 2024, he got a message on LinkedIn. It was vague. It advertised a content writer position. He almost ignored it. It had the look of a scam. But he was desperate, so he looked into it. And what he found was something he hadn't anticipated. The job was about training artificial intelligence. Specifically, it was what the industry calls data annotation. His task was to review AI-generated responses, in his case for Google, and evaluate them. Was the answer accurate? Was it helpful? Did it make sense? He was being paid to teach the machine to think better. The pay was $21 an hour, 40 hours a week. No benefits, no long-term contract, but it was income, and for him, income meant survival. Now here's where it gets really interesting, and a little bit uncomfortable depending on how you look at it. This man is not alone. The Guardian spoke with 5 skilled workers, all over the age of 50, all of them turning to AI training work, not as a career choice, but as a lifeline. And together, their stories paint a picture of something genuinely new happening in the labor market. A generation of experienced, highly qualified professionals who are being squeezed out of traditional employment by the very technology that now needs their expertise to function. Let that sink in for a moment. The same AI revolution that is disrupting white-collar work, automating tasks that used to require years of education, is simultaneously creating a new category of gig employment, and it's drawing in the workers it displaced to do the teaching. There's a term for this kind of job. Economists and labor researchers call it a bridge job. The idea is simple. When someone can't find work at their previous level, whether because of age discrimination, industry collapse, or market shifts, they take a lower-paying, lower-status role that keeps them financially afloat while they figure out what comes next, or while they approach retirement age. Traditionally, bridge jobs looked like retail positions, consulting on a small scale, or part-time work in adjacent fields. But a professor who studies age discrimination at a major American university has observed something shifting. For skilled workers, engineers, lawyers, nurses, architects, designers, AI data training is becoming the new bridge job. And unlike traditional bridge work, it actually makes use of what these people know. A nurse reviewing AI-generated medical advice brings something irreplaceable to that process. So does a lawyer evaluating legal reasoning, or an engineer assessing a technical explanation. That's precisely the point. The pay range is wide. Entry-level AI training gigs typically start around $20 an hour. More specialized work, reviewing domain-specific content that requires genuine professional knowledge, can pay between $30 and $40 an hour. And in some cases, workers with particularly coveted expertise can earn over $100 an hour. That's not nothing. But it's also not a salary, not a career, and not a safety net. There are no benefits, no sick days, no pension, no guarantee of next month. Our specialist experienced this instability firsthand. After his first job reviewing Google's AI products, he was laid off in January 2025. He then found work training Meta's models, earning $20 an hour, enough to cover basic expenses, but not enough to live without government assistance. He qualifies for Medicaid and food assistance benefits. A man with a master's degree and decades of professional experience, now navigating the American welfare system while teaching a trillion-dollar industry's AI how to write. And the reason this is happening, the reason men and women like him end up here, is not a mystery. It's the predictable outcome of a labor market that has never been particularly kind to older workers, and is becoming less kind all the time. Here is a statistic that should stop you in your tracks. Workers over the age of 60 in the United States take approximately 50% longer to find a new job than workers in their 20s and 30s. That's not a small gap. That's the difference between 3 months of unemployment and 6 months, between a short disruption and a financial crisis. And it's not because these workers are less capable. Research consistently shows that older workers tend to have stronger reliability, lower absenteeism, deeper institutional knowledge, and more nuanced judgment. The problem is perception, and sometimes pure illegal discrimination. A senior researcher at a major aging policy institute points out another sobering reality. Even among those older workers who do eventually find employment, only a small fraction ever return to anything close to their previous earning levels. The rest accept permanent wage cuts, permanent career downgrading. The professional identity they spent decades building simply doesn't transfer into the new reality of what the market is willing to offer. A survey of older job seekers found that 6 out of 10 believe their age is working against them in the search. They're probably right. And perhaps most telling, only 21% of them expect to find a job within the next 6 months. Think about what it means to be in a job search with an 80% expectation of failure. That's not discouragement. That's experience talking. Now, it would be easy at this point to frame this as a story about victimhood, about people being left behind. And that's a real part of what's happening. But there's something else in these stories that deserves attention: the quiet dignity of adaptation. Our information management specialist didn't wait for someone to fix the system. He looked at a weird LinkedIn message, investigated it, and figured out a way to use what he knew to earn a living. The fact that he's teaching AI to do things he once did himself, that's a genuinely strange loop. But there's something almost defiant about it. He hasn't stopped contributing, he's still working, he's still using his expertise. The world has just moved the stage, and there's a broader argument to be made here about value. The AI systems that companies like Google, Meta, and OpenAI are building right now are not self-taught. They require enormous amounts of human input, human judgment, human correction, human context. When a model produces an answer and a human evaluator rates it, that rating shapes the next generation of the model. The training data that older, experienced workers are generating isn't trivial. It is, in a very real sense, the intelligence embedded in the machine. Which raises a question that I don't think anyone in Silicon Valley is in a hurry to answer. If experienced professionals, people who spent decades in law, medicine, engineering, information systems, are the ones doing the intellectual labor of teaching AI, why are they doing it for $20 an hour with no benefits? The AI industry is worth trillions. The workers training it are often on food stamps. That gap is not inevitable. It's a choice. About how labor is classified, about who captures the value of a technology, about what we decide expertise is worth in the gig economy. And it's a choice that will continue to be made, mostly out of public view, unless people start asking the question loudly. The broader picture here is one of a labor market mid-transformation, and transformations are rarely clean or fair in their distribution. The people who paid the early cost of the Industrial Revolution were not the same people who eventually benefited from it. The workers displaced by automation in the mid-20th century didn't all find comfortable landings. History suggests we should be skeptical of assurances that everything will even out. What's different this time, and what makes these stories genuinely new, is the speed and the specificity. This isn't a factory closing. This isn't an industry declining over decades. This is a highly educated professional class, people who did everything they were told to do, got the degrees, built the expertise, stayed current, finding themselves navigating a world where the skills they spent a lifetime developing are simultaneously being replicated by software and needed to train that software. It's a strange, ironic position to be in. And the fact that so many people are in it right now, largely invisible, working contract gigs from home, evaluating AI outputs for
$20 an hour, should tell us something important about where we are.
The AI revolution is real. It is changing work in ways that are fundamental, not superficial. And the people most affected are not always the ones the conversation is about. Take, for example, a 60-year-old who has a master's degree. He slept in a car. He now trains Meta's AI. He represents a generation that did everything right. The degrees, the experience, the dedication, now navigating a world that changed the rules overnight. It's not a comfortable story, but it's an important one. Because if we don't talk about it, nothing changes. So here's what I want to leave you with. These aren't edge cases. These aren't failures. These are people adapting, surviving, and yes, still contributing in a system that wasn't built with them in mind. And that deserves to be seen. If this video gave you something to think about, please hit that like button. It genuinely helps more people find this content. Share it with someone in your circle who might be going through something similar, because knowing you're not alone matters more than we sometimes realize. And if you haven't subscribed yet, join the community. We cover stories and topics that speak directly to our generation every week. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Have you experienced anything like this? Do you know someone who has? We want to hear from you. Until next time, stay curious, stay resilient, and remember, experience never expires.